We're recording. Hello, everybody. Fanny Anzai interviews, and today I have here Yaron Brook. Thank you very much, Yaron, for coming. And
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to talk to you. I've made a little live stream earlier to talk to people. Say like, "Hey, you guys know him? I have been mentioned him every time I talk to anybody, and we end up with morals.
Sure.
The big wall of how you get morals if you don't have masters or religions or gods. So, Yaron Brook is a Israeli American writer, entrepreneur. And my first question would be an activist? Is that how Wikipedia titles you a little in the end? Is
Yeah, I
that
mean, I
supposed to
wouldn't
be an
use.
objectivist?
I'm an objectivist. I wouldn't use what Wikipedia writes about me as the definitive truth about anything. So Wikipedia is what other people write there, not what I write. So yes, I'm an objectivist.
Okay, and it's funny because they actually titled there as a literary movement, and I already contested that
Well,
as being a completely wrong title because it's a
uh,
philosophical. It's so much deeper and explains so much more. I think he's trying to undermine it.
no question. There's no question.
So, a little bit about your books. You have the books Free Market Revolution from 2012 in Politics and Social Science with Don Watskin,
Yep.
and also The Equal is Unfair in 2016, that is America's Misguided Fight Against Income Inequality. How you guys write those books together? You guys really see it, or is like letters that you exchange?
Well, when we wrote those two books, we were working in the same offices. So yes, so we worked very closely coming up with ideas, then outlines, then editing. And did almost all the writing, and I did a lot of the editing, a lot of the ideas and the outlines. So yes, it's a lot of back and forth. We were in the same office in those years.
Also edited the In Pursuit of Wealth in 2018.
Yes.
And I would like to ask you a little one question that I think is the basis of a bit of a left indoctrination on public schools about social science and politics. It's is there a rich class over everybody oppressing the masses or the majority to succeed as they try to teach in the schools?
No, not at all. I mean, that is very much a remnant of Marxism, which tries to categorize people into classes. There's no such thing as a working class. There's no such thing really as a middle class or wealthy class, as if everybody who's wealthy is the same, or everybody's middle class is the same, or everybody's poor is the same. Uh, Certainly, there are people who are rich who are bad people. There are people who are poor that are bad people. But most people who are wealthy achieve that wealth through hard work and through innovation and through the creation of values and through the production of values. And the wealth is just a sim, an outcome of their successful careers and their successful work and their successful production of values. But yes, there are people who inherit their wealth and are lazy. There are people who use the government to get their wealth. There are all kinds of wealthy people, and that's why there is no real meaning to a class where everybody is the same. And again, the same thing as poor people. There's some people who are poor for no fault of their own because something bad happened to them. There's some people who are poor because they deserve to be poor because they just don't produce, or because they're lazy, or because they do bad things. And so it's mixed, and you can't judge people, and you should never judge an individual by just independent of all other information by just how much money they have. You've got to know more about them, particularly in the world we live in.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because in Brazil, for example, these recent conversations about economics and politics, and I just always go back to Iran, and I was sharing and watching her this morning a little summary of all her ideas and how she explains we should be secular in the economics too. So apart, the same way we apart religion from politics, we apart economics from politics, and it's a difficult idea to talk about in Brazil when you have so much corporatism, and also people started attacking when they tried to philosophize a little bit more. or don't even try to philosophize, but attack terms as meritocracy, and they think like there is such a thing that is evil.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that we live everywhere, and it's not just Brazil. We live everywhere in these mixed economies where there's some freedom, there's some capitalism, and there's a lot of state intervention. And then people look at cronyism as if it is a symptom of capitalism, but cronyism really is a symptom of the state intervention. The reason there's so much cronyism, there's so much involvement of corporations in Brazil, it's because government has a lot of power over the corporations in Brazil. So businesses can get a lot of favors from the government by bribing people, by getting involved in elections, by getting involved in politics. But imagine a world, and this is the world Ayn Rand talks about, imagine a world that's capitalist, and capitalist means that the government is not involved in economics. What that means is that government has no favors to give business. It has no goodies. It has no special laws, special protections to provide business. So business, it gets no benefit from lobbying or from trying to bribe politicians, because politicians have nothing to give them, because politicians are impotent when it comes to they're divorced from economics. They're not related to economics. They don't get involved in economics. So as a businessman, my only consideration is production and treating my customers well and treating my employees well so they can produce and make money and make profits for my shareholders. That's it. The government has no role in my life, so I don't interfere in what the government in the government. So cronyism, what you call corporatism, all of that is a feature of statism. It's a feature of a big government that intervenes in the economy constantly. And the more the government intervenes, the more business tries to buy favor with the government. And what we need is a government that doesn't intervene.
Definitely. One interesting approach of like apparently everybody understand because or even of course more the people that will enter into be small business and feel that inequality that the big companies have those benefits from the government, smaller taxes or whatever exemptions or benefits, subsidies, and then they feel like, oh, that is unfair. But most of people, sometimes in the individual level, they are voting for the people that promote this type of agenda, mainly because, for example, in Brazil, you have politicians that are the owners of the companies that they are contracting. You know?
Again, the only way to stop that is to make politicians have no power over business. And of course, for example, if you had no corporate tax, which is the only, which makes complete sense, right? Because corporations don't pay taxes. Corporations are just people. And all the taxes are basically borne, it turns out, by customers and employees. So imagine if you had a corporate tax, a business tax of zero. Then there'd be no exclusions, no deductions, no special favors, nothing. Everybody would be paying zero. So it's gone. So there's no government involvement. So again, the more we can get government out of business, out of regulating business, out of controlling business, out of owning business, and out of taxing business, the less the incentive of business to go and lobby, the less the incentive to try to manipulate, the less the incentive for businessmen to become politicians. Right? So the only way to get business out of government is to get government out of business.
That's right. Thank you very much. Let me just brush a little bit on the USA politics. What are your thoughts about this double state solution and the, Trump's actions on Israel politics, external politics recently in
So
his mandate?
Israel, or more generally, what exactly do you want me to comment on?
Yeah, yeah. What is your opinion as an Israeli American person?
I mean, I don't
Is
think
your opinion
I
in
don't.
general, and how do you see what he has done so far?
I mean, I don't think a two-state solution is a solution in Israel. The place is too small, and the population is too intermingled in the end. Ultimately, the solution will be some kind of one-state solution, and that one-state solution will have to involve the Palestinians accepting the existence of Israel and accepting the fact that they are many that there are Jews there that they've always wanted to kick out and they wanted to get rid of. It requires their acceptance of that in order to have any kind of solution. I think overall, Trump's policies towards Israel have been positive. It's one area where Trump has I think, done good things. I don't think it'll be lasting because, well, he's lost the election now, so his administration is out. But overall, I think his policies have been positive towards Israel. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem is something they should have done years and years ago. Telling the Palestinians that, to stop the violence and that they won't be recognized and they won't be, unless they recognize Israel, is a good thing. He did offer a peace plan, which I thought was not very good. It acknowledged the two-state solution, which I thought was weak. But overall, I think his policies have been, with regard to Israel, have been favorable to Israel.
That's right. Yeah, I was more interested to know if you think that is possible, and it will always depend, of course, if we have some type of consensual peace. And I agree with you to not deal with the terrorism, but hopefully it could find some type of government that could fit both sides. Just like
Yeah, I mean, at the end
Republicans
of
and
the day,
Democrats, that is not supposed to
yes,
be from one. It's not supposed to be the power in one side's hand. The
that's right.
system
I
is
mean,
not set for that.
well, ideally, the Palestinians come around to accepting Israel and adopt what you would consider, Western ideas, and ultimately there would be one state in that territory, and it won't be an Arab party and a Jewish party. It'll be parties designated by ideas, and there'll be Arabs on the right and Arabs on the left, and there'll be Jews on the right, Jews on the left, and they'll or whatever the categories are, and they'll fight it out politically.
Yeah.
So yes, that is the idea. But unfortunately, I don't think the Palestinians are ready for that, and I'm not sure some of the Israelis are ready for that. But it's overall, I think we're far away from having a final peaceful solution to what is going on in Israel. Sadly.
Yeah, that's said to you. Hopefully, yeah, if they can change the battle to the political, maybe parliament.
Yes,
Sometimes.
they should be in parliament. They should have political parties. They should run. But the problem is that in the world in which we live, where people are becoming more and more tribal, the fear is that the Arabs will only vote for Arab candidates and the Jews will only vote for Jewish candidates. And that is, we need to resurrect. We need to bring about real individualism where people don't feel like they're just members of a tribe, but they have autonomy and they have confidence in themselves as individuals, and where the government sees individuals as end in themselves. And unfortunately, the Palestinians certainly don't have that, but even the Israelis don't have that mentality. There's way too much collectivism and there's way too much tribalism in Israel and in the broader Middle East.
Yeah. In the end, always end up with objectivism, and individualism is the best answer for everything. So, could you give a type of an objective analysis of what you think the USA elections now and its integrity? Let's.
Well, I don't
Uh,
think there was any problem with the U.S. election. I think the problem was with Trump not willing to accept the fact that he lost, and Trump voters not willing to accept, and basically Trump voters doing whatever Trump tells them to do. That is, this is the tribalism, and this is the collectivism involved. It's my tribe versus your tribe, and my tribe couldn't have lost, and if it lost, there was cheating involved. That's kind of the logic. So I think Trump lost. I think, in a sense, it's good that he lost. I think it was a repudiation of his style of governance and the content of his governance. Republicans did well in the rest of the races. So they did well in the House. They did relatively well in the Senate. And even in ballot initiatives in places like California, the better ideas did well. It's just that Trump didn't do well. But Trump psychologically can't admit that he has lost. He can't admit
what
that
about the evidence of frauds, like
there's no
the
evidence of fraud.
extra? No, no, there were like 800,000 extra ballots counted, like from
No evidence of that.
registration to.
None of that
And
is
all
reality.
the other states that are suing them now.
Yeah, they're suing at the Supreme Court, and I would bet anything that the Supreme Court.
The video evidence of people pulling ballots under the tables and stuff like that. You think that is like a punctual, like if there was such an because there are those evidence, those evidence
No
could be
evidence. There's
not
stories.
important.
There's
Oh no,
stories.
there are video evidence.
But the video evidence has all been debunked. It's all been debunked. It's all nonsense. And every time it goes in front of a judge, the judge throws it out because it's nonsense. So there's no objective evidence. Real.
I'm just a little skeptic because I'm not left or right, but I'm a centrist that watch. Like I understand that this judge throwing away could be biased
Some of the
anti-Trump
judges were
as well.
Republican. Some of the judges were appointed by Trump. There's no evidence, zero evidence of bias by these judges. I haven't seen a single article that is convincingly made the case that the judges are biased. And you will see. This is my. You'll be able to judge this. This is my prediction. The Supreme Court will rule against these states, and they'll probably do it unanimously, or 8-1, or 7-2. It will be an overwhelming defeat against Trump. There is no credible evidence that there was systematic fraud in this election. Now, was there fraud here, fraud there? Sure, every election, there are specific cases of fraud. Is there systemic fraud that would overturn this election? Zero, none. And the Supreme Court will rule that way, and they'll rule that way fairly quickly. I think by the weekend we will know. And they will basically tell these states to stop it and to get their act together, and that there's no basis for any of this. And on December 20th, I think it is, or whenever it is, the Electoral College will vote Joe Biden in as president, and that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, I think what everybody wants to see is the end, at the least.
It's the right outcome because that's what's happened. Again, there's no evidence of systemic fraud. All these videos have been debunked. All these ideas that there was the ballot.
I just saw like people, because I like to pick on both sides. I watch like from Ben Shapiro to Crowder, like very different.
I get it.
And going through a lot. And for example, Crowder is he's of course Trump supporter, and I don't even follow him recently anymore. But I received a video that he actually made, showing that he voted in 2 states, because you can yourself check your vote, and a lot of people have been checking, for example, Fleckas or even Crowder and other people checking, and it's like they have been registered voting in 2 places when they did not ask for. So there is like personal, not just personal experience, but they were the number of the ballots that were required before election and the number of ballots that were counted in the end of the election. There is a difference of 700,000 to 800,000.
I don't believe that, and I don't believe Crowder, and I don't believe his video, and he is out to get views, and he's out to get people to watch him, and he's out to create.
You think it's just clickbait?
Making stuff up like that is easy to do, and I don't trust them. I don't believe them, and yeah. So no, I've seen nothing credible to suggest that there was systemic fraud in this election, or that the election should be or will be overturned. And again, every single judge that's looked at the evidence has thrown it out. Every single judge. We're talking about, a lot of judges, and not a single one of them even brought it to trial because they thought it was so flimsy and so ridiculous in terms of the evidence. And our judicial system is not that corrupt, so that all of them are participating in some conspiracy to get.
No, I understand that. I've heard other arguments on that sense, but definitely it's like not going full on defending it. I'm just like very curious that there is so much, because I heard like first argument was like, oh, there is, let's say, when we recount the votes, we have sometimes a difference, but that doesn't exceed 128. Apparently, was a number like that, 20 or 228. So it's like 300. But now they had states that they had thousands, like 10,000s of
No, true.
difference. And I was like, wow, that is pretty big. It goes over the line that they say it's acceptable, and that is
None,
not why
none of
widespread.
none of that
Do you
is
think
true.
that is all like a myth, like a planted
So they
evidence?
recounted in Wisconsin. They recounted in Georgia twice. They did a recount twice in Georgia, and there was very little difference. So no, I mean, I don't know where any of this is coming
Or
from.
the glitch on the system? None
It's,
of this. This is
that's
all
made,
conspiracy theory.
it's all made up. It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's somebody sat in their room and said, "I'm going to make something up," and they make it up. There was stories about a supercomputer in Germany. There's stories about Venezuela. There's stories, with Dominion. All of this is
Yeah, no, I heard the Venezuela one.
nonsense. It's all just made up.
Okay. So let's talk now. We still have 20 minutes. I'm just checking on your time. To talk, I would love to talk a little bit and explain a bit of objectivism and maybe talk a little bit against these straw men and myths that people construct over objectivism. I love the video that you debunk the
Debunk.
the terrible video of Ben Shapiro talking. I think it was with Dave Rubin, and that he actually I almost felt personally offended with him saying that Iron's Man philosophy is garbage. I would like no, he should retreat that. And explain to many people that how selfishness is the best way and principle that we honestly live our lives. And because a lot of people I've seen trying to understand objectivism and rejecting when they face that. It's like, oh, of course, not being selfish will be the best way. And I have brushed that or talked about that quite a while. I would like to see you presenting that to people, please.
Yes, I mean, first of all, you have to understand what selfishness means. I mean, to Ayn Rand and Ayn Rand's philosophy, selfishness doesn't mean lying, cheating, stealing, being horrible to other people, being a nasty human being. Selfishness means that your top priority in life is your own happiness. It's your own success as a human being. It's living to the best of your ability and making the most of your life. And other people are obviously a part of being successful in life. We trade, we have relationships, we have friends, we have lovers, we have we have a lot of interaction with other people. And in order to benefit from those interactions with other people, you want to make those interactions beneficial to you and beneficial to them. So the way in which to view the relationship between you and other people is through the frame of as a trader, as somebody who trades value for value, win-win. So, the way a selfish person interacts with other people is to create win-win relationships with them. And a good life is one of the aspects of a good life is one in which you maximize the win-win relationships that you have in life. So to be self-interested, to be selfish, is to take your life seriously, to make the most of it. And what is required to make the most of your own life? Well, the primary thing that's required is for you to use your mind. It's to think. It's to figure out, how should I live life so as to achieve my values and so as to ultimately be happy? And what values should I choose in order to make my life successful, in order for me to both enjoy my life, to have it fulfilled, to flourish as a human being? I need to choose the right values, and I need to make sure those values are consistent in leading me towards happiness, leading me towards success. So the primary thing that objectivism asks people in the context of being selfish is to think about what your values should be, how you want to live your life, and how to maximize your one life on this earth, the one shot that you have at living your life and achieving happiness and pursuing the values that rationally are going to lead to that happiness. So again, it's there are too many myths about what selfishness is. There's too much, this perception that you either live for other people or you're a lying, cheating crook. And the truth is that there's a third alternative, and that is to live for yourself rationally with long-term consideration to what will lead to your happiness, your success, your flourishing as a human being.
Yeah. And I love to always talk to people to say like it's just natural that, because a lot of people want to attack this, there is no such of objective morality, as there is no such a thing as we all come born with such a pattern to behave. And I say no, because this is learned by experience, by living. And it's pretty early when you learn that love is not unconditional. You have to be good to people for them to be good back to you. And you can choose to cheat or steal, but you're going to be clandestine. You're going to have to live in the periphery of the society. And and that is definitely objectively not a best way to live. So yeah, be good and people will be good to you. So I think it's in some way it is intuitive, but requires a lot of reason to
Yeah, I don't.
understand that you don't need much more than that to just be good and not do to other people what you would not like them to do to you.
I think that's right, but to be selfish requires a lot more than that. Because yes, so I think there's a certain basic understanding that most people have that lying, stealing, and cheating are bad. But morality is not about what you shouldn't do. Morality is about what you should do. And what you should do and how you should live your life is not intuitive. It is something that you have to figure out. And it's something you have to really think about. And this is the value of philosophy. Philosophy is something that can teach you. It's a subject matter that should teach you how to live your life well. Philosophers look at the world, they study human nature, they study history, they study human action, and what they can induce is what are the values that are necessary for human success? What are the values that are universal to all human beings, that are common to all human beings, that if all human beings pursue these things, they will be successful, they will achieve happiness, they will achieve, flourishing and success at life. That's what philosophers do. That's what Ayn Rand did. And Rand presents us with an ethical theory based on observation of reality, based on understanding of human nature, based on understanding of human reason and its role that it plays in human life. And it's a philosophy that, if you practice it, guides you towards success as a human being. And that should be the purpose of every morality. A moral code should be a system of values that tells you what's good and what's bad, and to avoid the bad and to pursue the good. But good for whom and for what? Good for you and for a life well lived, for happiness. So, and that's why morality is objective, because morality is derived from reality. It's derived from human nature, derived from the nature of reality, derived from understanding of human activity and what leads to success and what leads to failure for human beings. So it's not subjective, and it's not mystical, because there is nothing mystical. So all there is reality, and the only place from which we can derive a proper morality is from reality and from our understanding of again, human nature and the nature of reality.
Yeah, that is definitely a good topic. I would like to just bring that back to say, to try to explain that what you said is like there is no such a supernatural. And the only problem is like a lot of people don't understand how to explain the feelings that you have when you do good things. This I have used recently the term social endorphin, because like, why would I do charity? It's like, why do we do it? We should not be forced to do, and that goes a little back on the economics and politics, but it's showing how philosophically you should to love or to give away, and the value is created by the individual, so it requires the struggle of each one of us.
But I would even say that we get too much endorphins from charity. And we get those endorphins because we've been taught a bad philosophy. We've been taught that the most virtuous thing you can do in life is to help other people. But that's not true. That's not the most useful thing, the best thing you can do in life. But if you're taught it and you make it a part of you, then that'll shape your emotions. And you'll get positive emotions from bad things. And so people self-sacrifice and they feel good about it. But that's not good. The self-sacrifice is bad, even if it's voluntary. Um, you won't know if you get good feelings from charity until you adopt the right values, until you adopt the right philosophy, the right set of ideas. I get some positive endorphins from some charity. A lot of it I don't. A lot of it's just a nuisance. Um, because I know how wasteful charity is. I know how useless charity is. I know how distortive charity is. And I know that charity is not that important. That what's important is my work. What's important is my relationships with other people. What's important is my own integrity and honesty and my own rationality.
But
Those are the things that really give me the
yeah,
endorphins. And charity is like, yes, I don't have any objection to charity. Charity is nice to do if you have the time and if you have the money to do it, but it's not a priority. It's altruism. It's the philosophy that teaches you that your life doesn't matter. The only purpose of your life is to serve others. Then when I give to other people, I go, oh, wow, I'm such a good person now. But with my philosophy, charity doesn't make me a good person. It doesn't make me a good person. What makes me a good person is how I live on a day-to-day basis. So our emotions follow our ideas, our conclusions, our values. If we have the wrong values, we will have positive emotions over bad things. The idea is first to focus on your ideas, focus on your philosophy, focus on your values. And then your emotions will adapt, will adjust, and you'll start feeling good, consistent with your values, if you do the kind of psychological introspective work that is necessary.
yeah, no, I understand that. But I also think it could be also like there is more than just the social endorphin that doing that is like more an evolutive interaction, and that's what built us as society. So it's like it's not just based on the altruism that you have to do charity, use your time well, like I saw just a post about how you have to take care of your physical and your mental, and it's like exercise and then read. And then there is a third one that would be spiritual, and in the spiritual they put pray, meditation, and then after then they put the real things. They put crafting, music, arts,
Yep,
and then charity. And I was like, I always talked against the church in general as institutions, because I always thought people in Brazil spend way too much time praying when
absolutely.
they could get together and do charity. It would
Yep.
be much better,
Or maybe instead of praying,
waste of their time if it's
or
like
instead
that.
of praying, they could actually think, they could actually produce, they could actually focus on values. Instead of praying for something, go work for it. That I think would be a big improvement. But let's be clear again, charity is not that important for your spiritual health. Arts and music, they're important. Those are real values. Charity is, is a
and
side. It's
and
not.
also because I think like we are naturally in that sense of doing giving charity, and I don't think the charity should be like a charity from poor people trying to give to church, for example, when they make so little and they still take like that 10% to give
Sure.
to church like they do in Brazil. I don't agree with that. I think, like you said, charity should be something that I have so much in abundance of time and money. I'm gonna give away because I understand there are people that are in need, and I understand also like because everybody had, I believe, some, if you give for charity, you have that experience that someone across the line, you're like, that person definitely doesn't deserve anymore. He's taking charity for like 10 years,
Yes.
let's say. And this happens all the time in Brazil. There are people that start when the government start giving the money to people,
Hmm.
still today receiving, because they did not want to even make more money to not lose those charities. So
Absolutely.
I understand how charity is evil. It is bad in the
Can be.
ultimate sense.
Yeah.
Your video is also, and there are so many other good videos talking about this. But I think that is natural that we would end up giving, and also uh, generating some type of feedback to like, yeah, we don't want to give to people that just want to collect.
But in a good society, in a free society, people wouldn't need very much. There wouldn't be a need for much charity. And people would feel ashamed about collecting because they would be proud of the ability to work for themselves, and that's how it
Yeah,
used to be in
we
America.
need to just inject more individualism and people to be proud of their own work and
Yes,
their creator their own value. I'm not gonna hold you much more, so I'm gonna finish here. You guys go check out Yaron's books and Ayn Rand Institute, Ayn Rand's books, and Leonard Peikoff, that I love his books as well. Explains so well Ayn Rand, and I hope to have you at some point, sometime again. Thank you very
sure,
much.
be happy to, and don't forget to send people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can watch me on YouTube.
Yaron Brooks Show.
Excellent.
I'll put the link here down below, and you guys leave comments and questions. Can leave questions. I'll pass to Yaron, and maybe we can make another meeting.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Thank you
Fanny.
very much.
Bye.
I'll stop recording right now.
Okay.